Proto Age is the spec series of the week in Forza Motorsport, and since we've been looking a lot at prototypes in the recent videos anyways, I really wanted to give this series a go. And I think you should too, because these cars are actually really fun and not even that difficult to drive in Forza Motorsport, surprisingly. They need a little bit of tuning, but it's not in the way that I thought. I'm gonna provide a tune for this car, the Cadillac V Series R, at the end, and also give you an idea for tuning these cars, so you can take any car you like and have fun with it. For our first race here, we are getting started at Laguna, and as you can clearly see, it's raining. And I was a little bit scared, I have to say, as this was my first race and I didn't really know what to expect, feeling like these cars might be very difficult to drive in these conditions. We'll see if that's actually the case. For these first couple of corners it didn't feel all that bad, and well, I managed to get away quite nicely. But for this next one I get heavy understeer at the exit and maybe open up the steering a little bit too early as well and have a lot of trouble getting out of the gravel here, and luckily only managed or only lost one position here, and that was quite surprising, but there might have been some problems or carnage behind. It's also quite small lobby, you can see, only 5 players, but that doesn't mean that you can't have great racing in this, as you were able to see. The guy that was able to overtake me here was also pretty much on the same pace as me in qualifying, and we will have some nice fighting going on. A little bit of a touch here going down the corkscrew, but he was still able to go, so we are good. And well, for this first lap I was kind of trying to feel this out in terms of how the car feels on this wet surface, and I was kind of surprised. Of course, yes, we have wet tires, but still the car felt really planted. And having played a lot of Le Mans Ultimate recently and really struggling with the prototype cars there, especially the hypercars, which this Cadillac V Series R is, as I, by the way, do a little bit of a dive bomb here, or quite the dive bomb, but the guy in P1 actually managing to do that really well, goes for the switchback, avoids me, and definitely retains that position really nicely, so kudos to him. And well, as I said, the racing in this was actually kind of fun. But yeah, as I was saying, in Le Mans Ultimate these cars are very much different and more difficult to drive, and especially on a wet surface you are struggling with oversteer, both just mid-corner and especially on corner exit when getting on throttle, and I didn't feel any of that here, which was really surprising. I did do a little bit of tinkering with the tune for this one already, just in practice and qualifying, trying to get something drivable, and I was already feeling there that the car didn't feel oversteery at all, but actually rather understeery, which I could understand with the aero setup at high speeds, or at least mid to high speeds, but even at low speeds the car feels really planted and too much, in my opinion. You can't, well, a little bit on throttle, but just a tiny bit can get the rear to step out, which is surprising, I have to say. As I said, being more used to the cars from Le Mans Ultimate recently, where they are definitely very difficult to drive, here I didn't really feel that that was the case. So that is why I said in the beginning, I feel like everyone should try this series out in Forza Motorsport. These cars are not all that difficult to drive. Yes, they are fast, and you need to be able to make sure that you only get on throttle properly once you actually made the turn, because as I said, understeer is there and they have a lot of power, so they, as you can see here, if you get on throttle too early, just go straight, and you don't want that, as you can clearly see here. But so far we are still doing okay and keeping up with the guy in front. I have to say that the driving here on Laguna, especially with the guy in front, was really nice. We are now jumping to lap number 5 here, and we are still behind him. He did pick up a little bit of a penalty for cutting, but still we were really close. And here he makes a little bit of a mistake at the exit, and for this last corner also compromises his line a little bit, so I actually managed to, well, at least try to get on this side, and he kind of pushes me. I'm not quite sure if that was on purpose. I have to say, take a look at my view. You basically can't see anything from the cockpit perspective. Not the mirror, and not the side mirrors, and not the sides or anything in general. You can just see the front, which is kind of difficult when you don't have a radar, which is something that I dearly miss driving this, especially these cars, because you really don't know what's going on with just the arrows. And yeah, I can just reiterate what I said in the very beginning when Forza Motorsport wasn't even out yet. A radar would be really, really nice for this game. I mean, yes, for people that drive controller and can play chase cam, I know some of you watching do this. It's probably a lot easier to see what's going on around you. You just sometimes need to maybe look behind, but you can clearly see what's going on your sides. But from this view, especially in these cars, I have no idea, and you're gonna see more of that in the next race that I'm gonna show you, where I had even more trouble with that. But as I said, for this race I was actually doing kind of okay, and with that overtake done, I actually managed to pull a little bit of a gap as we're coming here to the halfway point, and well, tires are already degraded quite a bit, so we have to pit. And taking this weird exit out of the pits, I don't know why Forza Motorsport doesn't do proper pit exits. Something is just not feeling right about this, because to our left there was the actual pit exit. But yeah, for this race, it's actually all that I want to show you here, because I actually managed to stay ahead coming out of the pits and pulled even more of a gap, as you can see here at the end of the race. The first stint, the first 6 laps were quite competitive. The second stint, not so much. Not quite sure what was going on with the guy behind, or if I was just getting a little bit more comfortable and a little bit faster. But yeah, you can see here that I actually managed to do quite well. But as I said, small lobby, so probably quite big of a skill difference. So for our next race, the lobby is a little bit bigger. It's not full for some reason. These races at the moment aren't all that popular, which is also why I feel like try these out and have some fun with them, so that more people are in these lobbies. We are at least with 12 players here, so it's a little bit better. Getting started from P3, I think it was. Actually managing to get into P1. I don't know what was going on with the start with the guy ahead, but actually he managed to get quite a nice switchback here for the first corner and is still on my side here. Not quite sure if that bumping was necessary. I mean, I tried to leave him space, but this is once again one of the situations where if you are not driving chase cam, you don't really know if there's anyone actually beside you and how far away he is, because there's no radar. So yeah, just reiterating what I said, would be nice to have that. Please, Forza Motorsport, turn 10, could you implement that? Would love it, I have to say. But yeah, because of that I actually lost another position, and once again didn't see that guy even until he actually was on my side, and I feel like he did push his way past a little bit. Take note of his car, we're gonna see more of him later. But well, from starting P3 and getting a really nice start, now back to P4. Not all that nice, so let's see if we can salvage anything here. It's a decently long race with 14 laps. By the way, at Hakone, I haven't even said that yet, a track that you probably haven't seen all that much, if at all, on the channel yet, because for some reason I don't get it all that often in my multiplayer rotations, and I was really happy to see it. I'm not that great on it, I feel. Only did do a little bit of practice. I think I had like 6-7 minutes before this race to do practice and qualifying, so it wasn't all that long, so I really needed also the race to get to grips with the track. But I feel like in the end I was doing okay, even though, as you'll be able to see, some players are definitely a lot faster here than me. And for this race also I tried to fine-tune the tune for the car a little bit more. As I said, I'm gonna show you at the end, but what I try to do with the tune is basically, well, try to make it less understeery, which is completely the opposite of what I expected. I was expecting this car to be quite slidey and very difficult to drive, and having to use the tune to make it drivable and actually not snap on me in a lot of situations, but the opposite is the case. You really need to do a lot to give this car some oversteer and get rid of all that terrible understeer. So as I said, I'm gonna show you the tune for this car that I've come up with at the end. It's probably not the best tune. There's probably a lot more that you can do, because the car still felt understeery. But what I did is basically went very extreme both on aerodynamics and on the anti-roll bars. We're gonna take a look at the end, but there's probably more that you can do here. As you can see here, trying to make a move on the guy in front, not quite managing to do so. This sector here is actually also quite tricky. As you can see, he definitely went a lot too wide there, and I tried to just take a normal line here, but he just, from his compromised line, sends it into that corner, and well, that contact I didn't feel all that happy about, I have to say. But well, we are still going at least. That's one of the nice things about Forza. From how the netcode and the collisions are, you don't tend to spin all that often, at least in these cars that I've found, unless there's like a big contact. You can see here the guy in P2 struggling and actually losing that position, and well, is now directly in front of me. He was actually really fast in qualifying, so I was surprised to see him struggle that much. But as you can see, also I am struggling. I did lift a little, so luckily from that off-track, no penalty. I was really fearing that that would be, well, quite the big penalty actually, because the game sometimes is really harsh when you extend a track like that. But luckily it didn't happen, and we are still keeping up, at least with these two in front. P1 is actually pulling away quite nicely, and well, he is gonna pull away quite a lot more, as you'll be able to see. But yeah, I think with the tune that I had here on this car for this race, that felt a lot better. By the way, you can see the guy in P2 there, who was in front of me before, actually pitting already. I was really surprised after 4 laps, so maybe he started on soft tires. Keep that in mind, because we're gonna see him later once again. And well, now it's up to me to try to make a move on the guy in P2, and actually managing to get on his inside here. But I don't really know where exactly he is. You can see the arrow, and I try to look behind, but nothing to see there, because he's still beside me. Because you don't have a radar, you don't really know where exactly he is, and I was trying to leave him enough space. Didn't really need to, because it seemed like he pulled out of that situation, and well, is now half a second behind. Probably a good move, but well, I still tried to leave him enough space so that we could make it too wide through there. But sometimes through these fast sections that's actually very difficult, because the line to take is, well, quite narrow if you want to make it optimally. But I actually like the track quite a lot, I have to say. As I said, haven't driven it all that much, but especially in faster cars, it's quite a nice track if you can use downforce to your advantage, especially for this last corner here. Finally managing to do that a little bit better. And well, we are jumping ahead now to after the pit stop. I was able to keep in P2 for, well, until we went to the pits after 7 laps. And look in front, that is our friend that bumped into us earlier, who went to the pits after 4 laps. So I was really curious here if he maybe did take hard tires now, because otherwise he really will have trouble if he maybe took mediums to get those to the end of the race. We'll see if that's the case. You can see P1 right now is pitting, so that was the guy that was behind us before the pit stop. Let's see if we can still come out in front of him after his pit. We are approaching the end of the lap here. And so far we are, well, kind of keeping up with the guy in front, but he is actually kind of fast, so I was really not sure if he went on hard tires or like maybe actually did take mediums and maybe tries to get them to the end anyway. I'm really curious to see how that's gonna go. But well, now here on our right, you can see that's the guy that was behind us before the pits, and well, he is still behind, but he actually managed to catch up. I think he did drive 1 lap more here and is now very close behind, and through this section that's a problem, because I don't have draft from the guy in front. He has draft on me, and he's easily able to pull alongside, even though my aero setup is basically no rear wing and only full aero on the front, just to have less understeer. But from a top speed perspective, there is not much to be gained, so I actually have a decent setup here, as he manages to pull away and also manages to overtake the red one in front here. I push him a little bit, but he also maybe drove a little bit into my line. I wasn't quite sure. That was a little bit of a difficult to judge move for me, but also take a look behind, he's gone, and that's because he went to the pits again. After another like 5 laps, was it now? So I was really confused. Maybe he again did take soft tires and is trying to make some 2-stop strategy, so 3 stints with soft tires work. But I don't feel like that's a very good idea, because the pit stop really takes a lot of time. And well, as you're able to see, as we're jumping now to the end of this race, I lost out a little bit more to the guy in front. He was actually quite a lot faster, I had a lot more pace, and also the guy in P1, he's 10-11 seconds away. But I was still able to do kind of well for not really knowing the track all that well, and well, still learning it while driving this race. So I was happy with the result here, getting P3, a podium. So overall, I had a lot of fun, I have to say. These cars, as I said in the beginning, not all that difficult to drive in Forza Motorsport. You actually need to make them more oversteery, and we'll take a look at the tune now, because as I said, they don't really have all that much rotation on the rear. And as you can see, anti-robas here quite aggressive, probably could go even more aggressive. You can also let me know if you have any experience in tuning these cars, because I was just trying things out. You can see here to make the car rotate as much as I can to get rid of that understeer that was really plaguing these cars, or this car. I also tried one other in the Acura. I didn't want to use that for these races, because that's a car that not everyone has, because that was one of the first ones that was available for getting through the single player experience. So wanted to give or try a car here that everyone could get. So hopefully you can apply what I used here for this one. And I think, as I said, tried other cars as well. You can apply the same concepts to these other cars as well. So, as I said, not all that difficult to drive these cars, not even close to what I expected coming from Le Mans Ultimate, where these cars are really, really difficult to drive. And I am still really struggling and not really sure if I really want to take them into multiplayer already. Right now I'm sticking to GTEs and LMP2s there, but yeah, here in Forza Motorsport quite easy to drive in comparison. But as I said, still fun. So since this is still ongoing this week, this series, and I hope it's gonna return, try these out. They can be quite a lot of fun. Yeah, let me know how you get on. Also, let us know if you have any more tips in terms of tuning to make these cars, well, behave a little bit more like they maybe should in terms of rotation. But yeah, that's all that I have for you today. I really hope that you enjoyed. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, feel free to do so. That always helps me out a lot. And with that, I'd just like to thank you a lot for watching. I've been AMD Racing. See you in the next one.